That's the word I'm looking for. I'm bringing us out now. We are leaving the before times. Hello, Internet. Welcome to your regularly scheduled fail portrayal. Quite possibly your least drama-infused source of Yu-Gi-Oh! If only just because nobody listens to me on Twitter. That's a lie, by the way. I know some of you actually follow my Twitter for all it's good for me to retweet card art and occasionally just yell random things into the void. But, yeah, so we're here once again, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Is racked by, you know, constant shenanigans. People are observing that in the Maze of Millennia set, the quote-unquote budget reprint of Triple Tactics Thrust may have been short-printed, which I think... That's, I think, a universally equality where everybody is like, yeah, Konami, don't do that. Don't short print. If it's that rarity, keep it that rarity. Don't, like, lie to us. But there's not much anybody can do that because I don't even know if Konami acknowledges that short printing is real anymore.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, short prints have never been officially really acknowledged, but they do definitely happen.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, when you've got people all over the world opening up cases of this thing to basically, like... Usually they're either, like, big personalities or they're stores, but they're basically strip mining for, like, singles, and they can go, hey, here's our stack of Triple Tactics Thrust. It's about 1/3 of the size of all of our other, like, secret rare or ultra rare print stacks. This printing is skewed, and that keeps happening. It happens, but... that, I feel like, has been mostly drowned out besides just the general hargle-bargling at Bonfire still being so expensive.
Yeah, and there can be times where, just by the nature of laws of averages, you can end up with a quote-unquote short-printed card in the case, but most of the time when this is happening, it's shops or personalities opening up, like, 7-8 cases, and they, at that point, that's where it goes from, like, you may have just gotten weird luck to go, okay, no, there's a problem happening.
Okay, I'm trying to steal somebody's asset on Twitter, but they've
trying
got a
to
watermark,
crop
so it
the
doesn't
starter
matter.
set,
But
so not,
I don't know why
the
they've made this fucking Giga Ultra HD. Hold on, I'm gonna open a second stab of paint. Okay, so that's a way too small thumbnail. Part of this, I think, is the X settings, because it's like you can get the little or the big, and the big is, like, super huge, and the little is ginormous. Yeah, this is 496 by 496 pixels. This is a literal 4K image.
You can at least downsize it.
I mean, I know I can, but, like, I'm trying to find a fucking downsized version that fits, like, the number of pixels I have set up to display fucking fail portrayal. Okay, is this... No, that's not legible.
But yeah, so while Omega's sorting that out, as a quick primer for today's archetype, guys, it's not good, respectfully.
Yeah, no, I mentioned this earlier, like, but just this is one of those deck types that, like, I don't want to go, nah, fuck it, we'll throw them in the Earth's Arctic zone. It's not good. It's never been good. It might, unlike Earth's Arctic, it might actually be good in the future because the OCG has said they are doing a series of manga chapters set in this lore period.
So
they will get
I'd like to
card
see how it
support.
gets the Witchcrafter.
I would say Magista's biggest problem is that it suffers from the, as appropriately titled from our video, it suffers from the lore problem of archetypes, where sometimes Konami will design an archetype explicitly around a lore set of characters, and we have all the 4 characters of the lore already, and, like, their evolved forms and stuff. Yeah. And they just decided, yeah, it's good. We don't need more.
Yes, and I do think that it is not necessarily meant to be, like, exclusively run. Like, there are times when Konami is straight up like, yeah, this shit's supposed to be splashable, right? Like, they do archetypes that are intended to go into other things, and depending on how long this actually takes us, because it might not, there's 4 main deck names.
Yeah, there's
4 original extra deck names, and they added 2 later. There are 4 spells.
Yeah, there's really not that much.
So,
like,
I have Endymion queued up afterward.
Oh boy.
which is a few more cards, but is also spread over the space of time, so some of them will be shittier.
Yeah, from what I can tell regarding Magistus, the most common splash I've seen is like the Charmer possessed kind of goons.
Yeah, the familiar
which are pretty
guys.
good. It's good generic spellcaster support, which makes sense.
Yeah. The problem I think they've created is that they've made an archetype which has none of the flash of the archetypes it's connected to. There's no pendulum stuff, and there's not a lot of spell counter stuff for you to do with Endymion. Technically, they have a fusion, but it's so that they can do their own weird extra deck thing we will discuss later, so there's no point in including Invoked because they don't even have all the attributes to do all the funny haha Invoked stuff. And while Witchcrafter is also kind of median, very mid, they actually have a distinct set of plays and like a unique gimmick that doesn't do jack shit with the cards that are in Magistus. But here are the two-player starter sets. These have been pre-released to Yugists. I know for sure Doug Zeef has a video on this, but also there's a few more.
At it. It's actually pretty cool. It gives you like the preset decks with a booklet that basically plays out like
it's a little manga.
Duel Links, like a Duel Links site.
Yeah, it's a little. So this has made competitive Yugi heads on the internet die because the first 7 cards I think it's different for both, but the first block full of cards here contains oops all normal monsters, which first of all, dear Yu-Gi-Oh, stop saying normal monsters don't do anything. I know that as a rule they don't, but like that unexpected die exists, right? Like, there are many decks that are built around the idea of jump-starting your deck with just producing a level 4 normal. There's been a lot of rescue animal guys who have been valid.
One moment, Omega. Is that fucking Swing of Memories?
Yes. No, it's just Swing of Memory. This deck, these two decks have a intentionally, I believe, but a wild swing of like old-ass cards to new-ass cards. Look at the Xyz deck. There's Eldritch in there. There's the fucking golden fucker right between Skill Successor and Cyber Dragon.
Emerald and Zeus in there.
Yeah, we have Zeus, Emerald,
Castel, who's still a good 4. The Synchro deck is Stygian's Coral Dragon and into Monodium Primeheart. Like,
it's like good end board stuff, and it's like it shows you actually like what an end board should feel like power-wise.
But the primary thing you need to know is that these decks are fully scripted. They have an order to their set numbers. You are supposed to play the tutorial duel in that order. So if I'm understanding this correctly, because all the normal monsters are printed up front and then you see like monsters intermixed with spell traps, you're supposed to start the game with a handful of normals, some of whom are tribute summons, so that you can learn the most basic bitch, actions of Yu-Gi-Oh, which is draw a card, play a guy, and then it goes into going from there. Keep in mind, the first spell card in the Xyz deck, the X deck, is Trade-In. You are literally scripted to draw Rabbit Dragon and then pitch him to draw 2, which gets you good cards like No Entry and Draining Shield.
I can see on paper someone looking at this and thinking, "Oh, this looks like shit. It's an awful product," but this is not designed for the journeyman player, the player who has played Yu-Gi-Oh for 5+ years.
This is a straight-up starter set.
As the name suggests, is designed to give a new player or players a quick rundown on the advancing history of Yu-Gi-Oh. This is basically designed like one of those 2015 Edo Pro replays that is just like that. That's meant to be kind of like that's meant to evolve as the game goes on. Of like, oh, we're playing dual monsters. Okay, now we're doing GX. Now we're doing 5Ds.
Yeah, and it runs you through the mechanics. Go ahead.
To an earlier thing is that I want to say, I think they should stop saying no monsters do nothing and more. They do nothing on their own.
Well, it's true. They do inherently normal monsters.
I feel like they should underline do nothing on their. I feel like they should underline on their own.
But like, this starter set comes with Dark Magician and fucking Thousand Knives. Like, it understands how that shit works. I also want to throw this out there. I do actually think this is a good starter set because like, if you just buy one of these, you learn how to play, and then, you know, whoever bought it just, like, starts kit bashing these two decks together, you've got a skeleton of some good stuff to just go to your locals and play around the kitchen sink, right? Like, you've got...
like if you're just playing
here.
with starter set .deck, you're probably still gonna get your ass kicked because you're gonna be playing just a bunch of singletons. But the cards themselves that like you can definitely pick out a good dozen plus cards from these starter sets, and they're still decently usable cards. Cyclone, the God of Cyclone, Magical Cylinder, a White Elephant's Bone if you want to do some normal.
They have Dark Holes, MSTs. That is indeed Book of Moon. Night Beam is in here. Like, they've got decent moves, and they've got funny shit in here. There's a Burden of the Mighty in you know, the X deck because Xyz monsters don't, you know, have levels. There's a Penguin Soldier who is still arguably, like, I mean, he's slow for modern play. But that's why if you were going to play Penguins, you would play support to, like, set him up, you know? Like,
yeah, the main, I think the main issue is that a lot of very, like even low mid-range pro, I can't remember said pro players, but competitive players.
Yeah.
They look at all these cards that aren't played in every single deck that tops and say, well, that card's shit, I should never look at it. But sometimes that's how you play. Sometimes that's how you game the meta. Like, no one cares about my set cards. I'm gonna set Magic Cylinder, and I'm gonna pull a shenanigan on this on my opponent who's gonna summon a 4K asshole and just attack me without any fear.
And like, what I think that those people want, which is not arguably the product Konami is trying to make. Konami is trying to bring in literal new blood. They are like, people are always bitching Yu-Gi-Oh's too hard to learn, and, you know, it's too complicated. How do we make Yu-Gi-Oh dumber to get new people in? Well, we're literally going to walk them through baby steps at a time. This is like, you know, normal summon Lajin is the baby mode. I actually replied to MBT's tweet and said, this is the equivalent of that section at the start of every tabletop RPG that tells you what an RPG is. And if you've played exactly one tabletop RPG, you don't need that anymore. You got it. Like, there can be maybe some conditional, you know, stuff out there to let you know that, like, not everything's D&D. But generally, if you can read the rules, you can understand what the game is trying to do. And I commented that normal summon Lajin is the conceptual equivalent of explaining what a D20 is. Because you might think to yourself, how the fuck do you not know what a D20 is? People do not come pre-programmed with information internet. If you've never seen what a D20 is for, you're going to be like, why the fuck is there this weird... Why do you need 20-sided dice? How many moves in Monopoly are you going to make?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, this is meant to be your 30 to 40-minute primer on what the fuck is a trading card game.
And, like, they've given you Sidra and fucking Eldritch, like, and Zeus, free Monadium Prime Heart, like... This would take a baby player and give them some gas to get started. The problem, I think, is that what I said, those, like, mid-range, those journeyman players we're talking about want is they want completely pre-packed competitive decks for cheap, which is not something that Konami really does. There are a couple of structure decks that have been like, you could buy 3x of these for the 3 copies and stitch them together and just go.
Yeah, what they want the starter set to be
how you
is...
works.
They want a starter set to be a full fucking Rika core and walk them through the combo step by step.
And I'm not going to say that, like, because this is another conversation that was going on, right? I'm not going to say that, like, we don't need that step-by-step combo, like, process. I do actually think it is hilarious. Like, MBT has been talking about this and some other stuff, and I agree with him on this point. It's so weird that Yu-Gi-Oh! Players just go, oh, only, I forget her last name, but only Jess can make Rika work and top a Euros. What? No, that's not how that works. Hypothetically, anybody should be able to learn how to play this game and play the combos. It's just that nobody can see it, obviously, with their eyes, and nobody explained it to them, so nobody wants to do the fucking legwork to get it themselves, I guess.
Yeah, it's the same way that any like GOAT format, Reaper format, Edison, how all these historical formats, once a following generates a round of that format, people quickly realize, oh, like the deck that won this format actually was like the 20th best deck of the format.
Yeah, I do think GOAT is actually considered to be kind of solved, but everybody just goes, it's dumber if it's solved, so we're going to play, like, the one-down decks, which are actually interesting.
Yeah, like...
But Edison has absolutely
GOAT
gone
Neutral format especially have been all but solved by this point, but they've been solved in the sense of, like, well, the best deck just kind of wins every single game, so we will just play GOAT tournaments where we just, gentlemen say, don't play that deck. Just don't play that one and we'll be fine.
Yeah, and I know that, like, straight up, ever since, and I will say it's definitely because of SEMO and MBT and history of Yu-Gi-Oh!, but ever since Edison has kind of gotten a revival, they are absolutely, people are doing brand new work in cracking it. And I think SEMO today posted, like, a fucking hour-and-a-half long video about how to play Edison Blackwings.
Yeah, and it's just it's a reason why the way in which modern Yu-Gi-Oh formats are constantly evolving from new cards and new sets being released. These formats will never be fully solved as they are, purely because there's just not enough time to crack them.
And this is why I said earlier when Axe was like, "Oh, aren't some Yu-Gi-Oh formats solved?" I'm like, no, they're not really. It's just that people think they're solved. Yeah, but I think actually attributing any level of solved gives players too much credit, basically. It's not actually solved at all. It's just that people think it's solved because we get into these ideas. And I do want to say, I think there is room out here for some improvement in the community. I don't know if that's like a byproduct of because Konami doesn't offer cash prize. Ooh, that's weird. Sorry. I just saw my YouTube stream, overlay say no data for a second. Let me know if the stream hiccuped or anything, guys. OBS didn't, like, close. It's just, it was weird. It grayed out for a second. Anyway.
I'm not seeing anything on my end, but I also don't have volume.
Yeah, we're also, I'm showing the static image. We'll move off it in a second and actually get to Magistus. Yeah. But I do think there's room for some of these more important guides. I don't know that, like, the insistence that it has to be text article based, because that will help some learners. Not everyone's going to learn something from a text article. I don't know if I would necessarily benefit from, like, article guidance, and I'm usually a like reading-based learner. I absorb lots of information I read. I don't actually know if, like, reading along with a combo guide would make me better at decks necessarily.
Oh my god! I just realized there's a fucking a Rise Heart in the Synchro deck.
Yeah, no, they've got,
or a Vsauce.
Yeah, they've got Vsauce as a normal print because he goes into Vanadium. It's so, like, there's cutting edge shit. Vanadium Prime Heart is a good card right now. And I hope that this card actually does what Konami wants it to do, which is newbies and people who don't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh! Will be advised to pick this up and, like, can actually get started.
And learn something about his energy blades.
Yes, and competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Players, competitively minded players, will be so inherently disgusted by the fact that Impachi is printed in here that they will not scalp this product. We hope. We pray. I would love to see Konami continue this trend because, this is only X and S, There's other extra deck types. You could do a Fusion versus a Link deck, probably. Yeah,
and like we could, who knows? We could fucking get a Fusion starter set that has just Alistair.
Yeah, no. You could run that run. Like, Invoked would be with, like, only, like, there's, like, 4 cards in the extra, but, like, you could end on a big Invoked guy. You could do a Link deck that, like, teaches you basic bitch baby climb into access code, Like, that seems on caliber with the finishers they've got. Like, they've got Eldritch, Zeus, Prime Heart.
Honestly,
I guess there's no main deck singers in the
honestly, I
set,
think I saw some comments of, like, this video. I would like if they, like, someone said, like, maybe they should also make an intermediate deck, so it's like after this you can see what it's like to have to deal with, like, player interaction.
And I will say, I feel like there are some Yu-Gi-Oh players, because this is a comment I saw on Twitter a lot. Some people are like, oh, but this doesn't even teach you how archetypes work. My guys, archetypes are baby mode. I played Yu-Gi-Oh when you didn't have archetypes, and shit was janky as hell. This teaches you core gameplay mechanics and how basic card types interact. If you applied archetypes on top of this, if you, like, followed this skill set, you'd be better for it, because then you'd be like, oh, these cards are automatically easier to use together.
Yeah, like the starter set just being a bunch of random singletons mixed with a handful of really good cards. It's a good way of I guess intrinsic gameplay where it's trying to naturally teach you why you should be playing good cards, I guess, in the easiest way. Which again, like it's a concept that is so embedded into how people deck build. You wouldn't think you had to be taught that, but sometimes you have to do that. Again, like these starter sets are not meant for us. They are not meant for us to play. They're meant for us they're either meant for us to introduce to a friend or to hand to a pair of friends and help guide them through it.
I think I could teach my mom and sister the game via this.
Yeah, I know Lucky understands some base concepts, but he doesn't know jack shit about the game. I could probably take this with him.
Honestly, Omega, I think you should get like a digital version of this, and then just have
we have the deck
through it to see if it works as a product.
Do some stuff, but that'll be a later project. We'll have to wait for this to like be added to, you know.
I mean, like that's like an hour. I mean, that's an hour-long stream with probably then I guess quizzing Lucky and showing Lucky
I would also need somebody to scan the full, unless they made it scripted, scan the full comic so I could follow along.
Yeah.
But anyway,
fair. You need the book.
Yeah. So
you should just buy the product.
This has been way more interesting probably than talking about Magistus effects. Magistus is a concept, decent, but as an actual interplay
is the invoked guys, the witchcrafter guys, the Endymion. They were all buddies in high school, basically.
Yes, they were all college roommates, and they had a fourth friend who is going to explode into a fire dragon and never be seen again, which is why they are no longer friends. That's basically what I've picked up.
And then the other three guys went to make their own archetypes with blackjack and hookers.
All of which are arguably better than Magistus.
Yeah, probably because they all, like, became, I guess, actually masters of their craft.
I mean, like, the funny thing is, for the most part, a lot of their stats are the same, so it's because we're doing alphabetically. We're starting at C, Crowley, Magistus of Grimoires. By the way, Magistus is another thing that's just basically fucking untranslatable into English fully because they do the, like, forced read plus meaning read, so Crowley's name is written in Japanese as Magistus Grimoire Crowley, Crowley the Magistus Grimoire, but also he has kanji, which are Crowley, the great sage of law books. So, like, they have a phonetic read to let you know his name, but then also an underlying, like, translation read. In English, it's just easy to say Crowley the Magistus of Grimoires. But he has the exact same stats as Alistair. Actually, it's reversed. Yeah, he's got stronger attack than his Alistair mode. So, like,
well, and hey guys, if you're wondering, how does Crowley have anything to do with Alistair the Invoker? Look up this weird little guy named Alistair Crowley. It'll make a lot of sense, guys.
Yeah.
Or if you can't read, if people can't comprehend with the joke, just think about the other cards that are.
I mean, no, it's straight up. He's called Crowley. The other guy's called Alistair. You put them together, he's Alistair Crowley.
Plus, there's also I think there's also the.
And that's all there. To the name X, that's all there is. Alistair Crowley is a guy.
No, I was thinking about the link.
The
Invoker
Alistair
of Madness?
Link,
That's not really relevant right now.
No, the other one, the Magister.
I mean,
forget.
No, I don't know which we're talking about, so it's not really.
Yeah,
there's an Alistair or a Crowley, but like.
Yeah, and that's Alistair the Mad Invoker. His name is exactly the same. Are you thinking the Future Seer of Prophecy? That guy's related to prophecy, and that's again, that's another weird relation. We're definitely not doing prophecy tonight because there's a lot of those, and they're connected to spell books. But the spellbook prophecy, conglomeration is explicitly dudes under Endymion studying at his school. I will actually say we'll talk about Endymion, and we may talk about the whole quote unquote Endymion archetype. Which is mostly the spell counter and then the pendulum support with spell counters. But I feel like for Endymion, they kind of did him a disservice in the English translation because Endymion's like normal name is, let me see, I actually have it written down because I've got him here. Endymion the Master Magician from like his original printing in the old school structure deck. His name in Japanese is, like Endymion the Magical King. Like, so he's not just a really good magician, he also is like a ruler of a place, of his magic citadel.
Yeah, his Magus' counterpart is Endymion, the great sage of sacred magic.
Yeah. Which, funnily enough, is Endymion, the Magistus of Mastery. His Endymion continues to kind of be your weird, lame, straight-laced friend.
But yeah, regarding Crowley and Alistair,
yeah,
I mean they're both nice aesthetic designs, and you can clearly see the obvious through line. Like the Invoker is just Alistair, like 10 years later, roundabout, I would say.
I was gonna say like 5, but yeah, fair.
I mean, however long enough for Crowley to grow a head taller and stop being baby-faced.
Yeah, I will say it may just be how wide his pants are. This man had stubby legs in high school.
Yeah, I mean, we joke about it being high school or college or whatever, but like Crowley is very clearly still a child. He's like completely round-headed. His body's kind of stubby. Alistair is like, this is a grown-ass man. You know, he's lost a lot of his baby fat and stuff.
The other characters in the Magistus archetype are definitely meant to be either young adults or like just older people. Crowley's the exception of like, he is very clearly like the kind of like the young savant.
Yes.
Like the master, like he's taken upon this magic at a young age or something.
Yeah. And he's got a book. And that's his thing. He has books. Got it a books, and he's got a stick, and the stick is kind of similar but still different from his other
I believe that actually is the Book of Law,
probably,
according to Wikipedia.
Also, hey, we should bring this up as well. So all these guys are going to be spellcasters. They're going to be different attributes. They've got kind of their own thing going on. But the name Megistus comes from Trismegistus, a.k.a. Hermes Trismegistus, which is the alleged author of the works that go into Hermeticism, which is a really, really old school occult tradition in real life. So
whoever could have founded that tradition.
Yeah, and there's a lot of classic occultism, esoteric knowledge vibes from all these guys. This is very classy Yu-Gi-Oh.
Okay, never mind. The Book of Law is what Alistair is holding. We don't actually know what the book Crowley is holding.
The trivia says he's holding the precursor to the Book of Law, which, okay, cool. That's not a card, though.
Don't
give me that trivia. That's fake.
What that is, though, Wikipedia.
And we've already done all of Invoked, so we're not going to rehash Alistair, normal summon Alistair. But I've put his image up so you can compare the two. So
yeah. What does their boy Crowley do then?
So let's see if we can learn something about this archetype from how this guy works. This is our first main deck monster. He is a Dark Spellcaster, level 4. As I said before, his stats are reverse of normal Alistair. He's got 1,800 attack, 1,000 defense, so decent starter stats.
Yeah, he's pretty strong by a level 4 monster's stat line.
He's on the bell curve. You can send one Spellcaster monster from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard, special summon this card from your hand. You can declare one attribute. This card becomes that attribute until the end of this turn. So he's got a hand effect.
It's a decent kind of fixing to kind of make him work if you really wanted to play him in Invoked.
Yeah, and then he has a secondary effect, which is tangentially good in Magistus, but is also good in Invoked, so like he's got an angle there. Also, he has a graveyard effect. You can banish the card from your graveyard, target a Magistus monster you control, equip it from Magistus from your graveyard, except a level 4 monster, which is all of your main deck monsters. Each of his effects are hopped. So, yeah, he is a self-summon. He can attribute change, which is just like his, weird personal effect. And then he does this thing where he lets your Magistus monsters, except level 4s, be equipped to other Magistus monsters. So, yes, this is their extra deck gimmick. This is actually a part where, like, Konami's been doing this a lot lately for different levels of success. I strongly suspect that the Diabellstar Snake Eyes stuff is much more relevant. But this is one of the first times Konami was trying to crack around with, like, hey, can we just make, like, a monster where them being spell traps is part of the vibe? Centurion also does this.
And can we did what Union Carrier accidentally did, but for real this time.
Yeah, can we just make a deck that does what Yugen Carrier does without it being a fucking pain in the ass? And also, I do believe that, like, again, this is probably why nobody's ever played them in, like, a competitive deck, but I'm pretty sure, like, most of the Magistus cards that have an effect when equipped to something aren't floodgates, like all the Buster Sword cards.
Yeah, I'm taking a quick glance at what they are. They have a pretty decent variety of effects, but none of them really are true wombo combo, slapping the hand out of your opponent and telling them to stop playing Yu-Gi-Oh kind of stuff. Which tends to be what the meta wants to be, and nothing against that, but you can see why this deck would not have just made it into a meta deck unless they introduce a new Magistus card in the new set that is just Buster Lock or something.
I hope they do not. Also, I want to throw this out there, by the way. We're going to see this later, but these guys got 2 cards after their original place in Genesis Impact, right? Both of which are extra deck monsters, so that's a very funny part. One of those was printed in Burst of Destiny, Bode. So we have another case, and the other was printed in Lightning Overdrive. So we definitely have one of these cases where there's a couple of these little guys tucked away in sets that are normally thought of as very good that don't do anything for this archetype. Crowley himself does stuff. He obviously banishes himself from your graveyard to do your primary gimmick, which is equip guys to guys.
Crowley definitely feels like the super overtuned starter of the deck. Unfortunately, Crowley cannot carry the archetype by himself.
Yeah, so I have to step away for a sec, but I will pull up our next guy, which is Endymion, and I will... I guess we should use his, because this guy's not a Pendulum Art. Let's use the Master Magician version as the comparison. You may see this asshole again later, but we won't talk about his effects just yet. But Endymion's one of those weird guys, because I'm going to leave my cohorts and chat with this glow-up
I will
question
say,
mark?
While you're here, it's interesting that because he is still based off OG Endymion, he has that very old school Yu-Gi-Oh style of like back cape.
Yes, he has a triangle.
Yeah, I don't know what else to call that.
Yeah. Oh no, it's very classic. But I will be right back, and I will leave, like I said, you guys to discuss and dissect this guy.
Yeah. This man is he is the most kind of like young Gandalf at home I think I've ever seen. I don't dislike the design, but he's very clearly trying to pull off that kind of wise, like that wise teacher headmaster kind of archetype.
It just feels like an evolution of like the Dark Mission design into like just a full kind of realized thing as like
that's kind of
the common fashion for wizards.
Yeah, like it's weird to me that Dark Magician, despite being such a prevalent archetype, we don't really actually have any fucking lore around Dark Magician, it feels like, aside from, well, I guess he has like an apprentice Dark Magician girl, and we know later in his life he becomes this ultimate almighty sage. But aside from that, Dark Magician is just a guy. He's just a guy in his lore. Like, we don't know anything about him. We know all kinds of various shenanigans and little tricks up his sleeve he has, but we don't know who Mr. Dark Magician is, I guess, is a good way to phrase it.
Okay, I'm back. While I was stepping away, I was thinking, and I wanted to bring up, and I don't know if this sort of thought has come up before, but we talked about how Crowley very clearly, like, became an adult, right? He became a full boy. Endymion looks more like he went through, like, a midlife crisis or something and decided to enter his goth phase. Like,
not only that, he became purple.
Yeah, no. He's like, he's gone the full extra, like, I'm purple now.
I mean, it's like Dark Magician has, like, purple skin, too.
Well, and like,
it depends on the card art.
I don't know how much you heard of us discussing it. We had a little mini diatribe about who is the Dark Magician? Like, legitimately speaking, who is he? We don't know. We don't really know anything about him aside from
Yeah, I
He's
mean,
this master of magic and
Yu-Gi-Oh's card lore, like the actual card game, I don't think there's any explanation for like what he does. Obviously, like in the manga, he's like the fucking, Yu-Gi-Oh Sona of a guy, right? Like he's Mahad as imagining himself as a cool wizard monster guy. But that doesn't really translate to any of the support that has come out for Dark Magician since the Yu-Gi-Oh manga has ended. So yeah, I don't know.
Like at the very least,
because everybody's fucking cosplaying his shit.
Like with the Blue Eyes archetype, while I wouldn't say there's much more lore compared to Dark Magician, there are at least other characters in his lore. Where Dark Magician just
I think the very existence of like Mausoleum of White and the Eyes of Blue tribe, right, indicates that like, okay, there's like a place where there's these blue-eyed storm riding people who are connected to dragons, and sometimes they summon dragons with eyes of blue, you know?
Yeah.
Dark Magician just vibes. Their field spell is called Magician's Navigation. It's another image of like Dark Magician Girl and Dark Magician traveling through portals. Yeah, is that it? Have they been isekai'd from their own universe and are just stuck in Yu-Gi-Oh land now?
We don't know. Like I guess there are other magician girls, but they don't seem to have any connection to the actual Dark Magician archetype. They're just generic spellcaster.
Yeah, it's like Dark Magician went away for a little bit, to study up on his moves or to investigate the powers of chaos or whatever. And when he comes back, DMG has started her own, idol group.
Yeah, like her own little cult of
magician her own little girl squad. And I'm just imagining Mahad just being like, what the fuck?
I don't know if it's cult. I think it's more just like,
I guess. I'm joking.
Yeah.
Just, I
guess she just became a magical girl leader, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is actually a relevant discussion because, as we discussed, both in his, old school 2008 structure deck form with all the spell counters, but especially his brand new form, Endymion is Dark Magician cosplaying hard.
That's why we asked if it's like, is it a thing?
He's got like such vibes with the purple. Oh, actually, also, I remembered another point I was going to bring up during the starter deck. But I forgot to bring up, but I very briefly mentioned. I would say I think there's a valid space for some of the product in this vein. If Yu-Gi-Oh did the thing a lot of other card games do, where just like maybe a year after Worlds, we just do an exact reprint of the Worlds winner's deck for like a static market price, even though a lot of those cards are going to be banned or outdated when we print it, but just as like a, hey, this won Worlds last year, here's the deck. That could be a viable product, but
yeah, it probably could.
Discuss the finer points there.
What's our boy Endymion do?
So Endymion, the Magistus of Mastery, as we said earlier, Endymion, the Great Sage of Sacred Magic. Very glad they just do the Magistus blah 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 translation because God, that's so wordy. So this is going to be an odd one. I mentioned earlier these guys do actually have a few different archetypes. So despite the fact that I think no other Endymion related cards are water, Magistus Endymion is a water spellcaster.
Yeah, that I saw. That is a bit odd to me.
He's a level 4, like all of their main deck guys. At least all of their main deck guys for now, until they print a main deck guy who's not level 4 to make that work. He has 1,300 attack, 700 defense, so bad stats. 17 defense is okay, but usually if your opponent is attacking something in defense mode, they're gonna have more.
All right, I just took a peek. It looks like there are a handful of various Endymion support that's been released over time. There's an Earth, a Fire, a Wind spellcaster. So I guess they made this Magistus Endymion water to get the full, like the full type scale.
That's fair, because I will say I do believe Endymion counts as an archetype. There are cards which name check Endymion cards. He is
part of the Endymion archetype as well.
Yeah. So
if you wanted to play
him slotting into his own archetype that way does make sense. Anyway, his effect says you can target one Magistus monster you control, equip it with a Magistus monster from your extra deck. Just straight up fish that motherfucker out of the extra deck, equip it to a guy. You can target one face-up spell you control, destroy it. If you do, draw a card, then place one card from your hand on the bottom of the deck. You can use each effect of Endymion once per turn. So this guy is missing an inherent special clause, so he is probably one of your normals. But he does straight up have a way to get you started on your game plan. He takes a guy in your extra deck and equips it to a Magistus you control. Not even another. You can just normal summon him and do the equip.
Yeah, you can, like, you probably wouldn't because he has dog water stats.
But he does work to get you started. And he has kind of a cute thing where he like lets you remove your own spells, which includes your guys and who are count as equip spells. You know.
Yeah, he's
to draw a card.
He's basically a weird version of Card Trader.
That is probably not, especially because there are in like Spellbook and Prophecy type decks, there are way better deep dig maneuvers with cards, right? Like, there's so much more you can do than draw one, put one back at the bottom. Though obviously, I assume that most of your Magistus cards are intended to plus you if they're destroyed this way, but still, it's very.
I'm gonna let you know, they don't.
They don't? Okay,
they
yeah,
don't.
That's.
I'm looking at their one continuous spell card.
This doesn't even have synergy, I think, with the cards that are in Endymion, because if they have effects that are like, well, don't destroy this, remove a spell counter instead. But then this has an if you do, so you can't draw then. Yeah, I think they made this guy a little too hobnobbed, sadly on purpose.
Yeah, I'm looking through the extra deck cards. None of them. I don't even see the destruction effects on the extra deck cards.
Yeah, so I guess the idea would just be to de-equip them and put them in the graveyard so you can equip them to somebody better, maybe. But
I guess so.
It's just a really weird space where I don't think that it's like Crowley's effect to change his attribute. It's cute. It doesn't actually like do anything.
Well, it seems to be a running theme where these decks this archetype has a lot of wide range concepts and tools to play with. There's nothing beyond that.
Yes.
Like it's a bunch of wide experimentation and no tall experimentation. Yeah. I guess to borrow a different comparison of strategy.
All right. So our next one is this card is Riliona, the Magistus of Vare. This is actually kind of an interesting one where they did some switch around. Her name in Japanese is supposed to be Cendrillon, the Magistus Vare. So obviously establishing you that she is, related to Madame Vare, even though, again, you can point out this is the, she got into some age reversal stuff. I do kind of find it kind of weird that they made it Riliona, because the way this is supposed to work is her name should be Cendrillon, which is the French way to say Cinderella. The Magistus of Vare, which Vare is French for glass. This came up, when we did Witchcrafters not too long ago. So, basically, yeah, she is Cendrillon, the Magistus of Glass, or Cendrillon, the Great Sage of Crystal. But yeah, so this is kind of a sort of reverse glow-up situation, like...
Yeah, so I pulled up Witchcrafter Madame Vare's trivia.
Yeah.
And apparently, there is an official card game art Brooks book that lists her age and height for some reason. And Madame Vare is 9 years old.
Yeah, okay, wow, she really wound back the clock.
That feels like it just so she's old enough to not, be responsible for anything.
But she is also the boss of the guild. That's probably why she keeps fucking
she's
off.
Also
into her
4'4". She's a tiny. She is bite-sized.
Yeah.
Makes sense for a 9-year-old.
So everybody can see the aesthetic. They have similar backgrounds, though. Why Cendrillon is chilling on a sex swing, I don't know. But she's sitting on the swing of memories, but made of glass. Her staff is very similar, though in some different ways. She has very clearly similar vibes to her outfit, her big form is very different. It's got extra layers and shit, but it's a lot of the same colors and fabrics, same little details of the ribbons and shit. They're both wearing glass slippers.
Same with the hair color, where it's blue with little highlights of
little pink candy cane stripes in there, and then edges. You can't see how her hair is held back, but her Riliona's giant hat has the little 3 shards of glass. Also, just want to say, as a player of the award-winning MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV,
yeah, she's
mode?
rocking. the best white mage glam of all time.
Hat mode, much better. And she's got like a big, she's got like the big first stole that they both have.
I would love that
but
staff,
yeah,
actually. That'd be a great staff.
This hat, good hat. Madame Vare, no hat. Weak. Low energy.
Weak brat.
The problem is that, funnily enough, because she's level 8, Madame Vare is actually a much better card than Riliona.
Yeah, I think Madame... Let me pull Madame Vare back up. I saw her stats. It's fucking wild to me.
She's got 2,800 defense, yeah.
Yeah, Madame Vera's 2,800 defense as level 8.
She has a lot of magic.
As 1,800 defense.
Yes.
Well, you have to go up the stairs to get to her.
You have to go up those giant stairs in the Witchcrafter base. But yeah, okay, so Riliona is a light spellcaster level 4, 800 attack, 1,800 defense. Which is kind of, like I said, that's another interesting comparison because Madame Vare is 1,000 attack, but 2,800 defense as a level 8 light spellcaster. So Riliona has has the classic, if this card's normal or special summon, activate one of these effects, bullet point trick. You can add a Magistus spell trap from your deck to your hand, or return one of your banished level 4 lore spellcaster monsters to your graveyard. You can banish this card from your graveyard. If you do, target a Magistus monster you control, put a Magistus monster from your graveyard to level 4. You can use each effect once per turn.
So again, another pretty solid kind of starter card.
Yes. If she is later in your combo, she is an extender because she resets a guy like Crowley. Obviously, Crowley is like hopped, but you know what I mean. He's reloads him for use later. Or if you're just normal or specialing her, she searches you one of your spell traps, which some of them are decent. One of them is a fusion spell, so like actually there is some gas in here, and then she has the graveyard effect to, banish herself to do the thing, basically. So you can see their lines, but it really... People have talked about this before, that like, oh, your whole main deck's that's there to get to your extra deck good stuff, right? That's not always true. There's some very strong main deck decks that are out right now. Magistus is really that. Your main deck monsters are nothing but enablers to let you set up your weird extra deck equip combos.
And I will just say, as a just general concept, like we will see, Magistus needs more main deck names.
Yeah.
Like that. Like the biggest problem is that we have 4 main deck names in an archetype that is very clearly designed to have like at the very least close to twice that amount.
I would say probably at bare minimum at least the 6, so you have one of every attribute. And then go from there, but they don't. And the weird thing is that all of their legacy support added more extra deck guys. So it's very weird. But you will notice how almost all of these guys that we've got so far are like the most basic bitch starters, right? Like Alistair just summons himself, and Endymion gets you started by equipping, an extra deck guy to another guy, just straight up. And Riliona searches a spell trap on summon.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with this archetype is that it's a very old school design mentality that was tossed in at what, like.
This is Genesis Impact. This is Live Twin and Drytron.
Yeah, this should have been printed like 5 years before that, and it probably
if you printed this at the same time you printed Pendulum version of Endymion shit, it probably still would have been okay. Like,
yeah,
there's room for that, but
this I don't think it would have been groundbreaking. But if this was released in like an early Pend era, I think this could have been at least a decent shell.
And honestly, like I said, if you were doing this at a time when Union Carrier was legal, which it may technically have been when this came out in the OCG, maybe there was, more funny to it. But even then, Union Carrier's, equipped from your deck. All your fun shit's in your extra deck. It's like they built it knowing that Union Carrier's days are numbered, But this is our one guy who doesn't have any extra forms because it's very obvious through the additional card art and the other versions in Archetype we're going to see of him. This guy is not around anymore as looking like a normal man. Not that he does look like a normal man necessarily in this, but you know what I mean, chat. Like,
yeah, this guy is no longer having a good time, unlike the other three.
Yes, this guy got to stand in the middle of a triangle of power type ritual and is thus having a bad day. I
will say he also at least looks like he's their upperclassman. He looks like he's like the oldest of them.
Yeah, this is Zoroa, the Magistess of Flame. I will say he's probably the coolest looking one. Despite the fact that he is one of the 3 males on this team, he's the only one brave enough to show his midriff. Like, he's ready to rock.
Yeah, and his Japanese name is the Great Sage of Absolute Flame, which is a very JRPG-ass like boss name.
Zoroa, the Magistess of Flame. Obviously, he is named after, in case you can't tell, Zoroaster, the founder of Zoroastrianism, which is another like old school esoteric thought process and religion. But yeah, so there's no like alternate version. This is just himself. He's a guy. I think Magistas have a quote unquote problem, though it's not really a problem because that's the whole point. But every single one of them has a completely different aesthetic because they're all supposed to be guys who go on to found their entire little groups who all share their aesthetic, right? Though obviously Invoked is different because all of the Invoked extra deck monsters are weird little freaks. Or weird giant freaks in some cases.
Well, and you know what? We may in fact see a precursor to those little freaks in a little bit.
Yeah, there may be some freak show shit as well, but definitely like none of them have really, really good aesthetic through lines. But at the very least, these guys are all drawn with like similar enough like body styles and proportions that like no, these guys could hang out. You've got Zoro with no shirt, Rilliona with a giant hat, Endymion looking like a nerd with his giant cloak. He can't, run anywhere. And Baby Crowley.
His neck back anymore than he really.
I don't know. He has to turn sideways to go through doors with those extra poofy cloak shoulders. Make sure he doesn't get anything caught in the door when it closes behind him. Maybe that's why Magistas Endymion has all those rings around him. He just teleports everywhere.
You know, we're gonna duck a little bit so the top of his little back coat doesn't bend against the door frame.
Zoro is cool. I mean, he's quite literally hot. That's fine. He's got some little Firebird guys. He's doing good. He's out there.
It's interesting like his aesthetic feels very kind of Middle Eastern inspired in a sense, which does fit in with the where Zoroastrianism comes from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That general like vague region.
Like, figure out exactly before we say anything incorrect.
You're like Jin stuff, like sort of like Jin and like Flamecraft.
But it's
Zoroaster.
Yeah, Iranian region, Iranian speaking area. Yeah. And obviously, while it's not directly related, a lot of the Hermes Trismegistus stuff is, Greek and Mediterranean. And Endymion himself gets his name from Greek mythology. So, yeah.
I'm kind of seeing now a thing about how, because of what happens to him, all three of the other three just, I guess, double down on a very specific thing. Vare progresses. And I guess some kind of.
Well, I mean, like honestly, like
Forster becomes obsessive, and
for all we know,
just becomes responsible.
For all we know, there may actually be in the past and not in the future where she dabbles with age magic. We don't know.
I think we're reasonably certain because one of the other witchcrafters, I think it's Jenny,
is like her niece or something.
Oh, is that the case?
No. One of the other, not the niece part. One of the other witchcrafters is servant of Endymion, but she's lost all of her Endymion extras. But she has them in like her backdrop, so it definitely looks like whichever witchcrafter that is quit working for Endymion and went to go work for Vare. So yeah, I think Vare is supposed to be like have de-aged herself to fucking go into hiding. Like, she doesn't want to be part of this shit no more. But I'm not exactly sure because there is no, and presumably won't be, like, a master guide about it because they're going to print this manga, but there's no exact, like, translation of their lore. Also, Axe, did you say earlier Endymion becomes responsible?
As in he runs the fucking academy.
Yes, but poorly. Endymion is one of those guys who's not afraid to blow up a couple people for magic.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, I guess sorry. Okay, like I said, I was reading and thinking about something else.
He becomes authoritative.
That's fair. Endymion definitely is responsible for
also,
several
I think
accidents.
he also locked up Alistair after he stopped being a Legion.
That is true, yes. I do believe that the prophecy guys who follow Endymion put Alistair in their basement later.
Because he kept going further and further. He started with like the dark, and then eventually became a Legion, and that was the size of a planet. So no.
But what did you realize, Vesper?
There apparently is a very small little lore tidbits describing some Witchcrafter stuff, but it does not seem to be. It does not seem to be anything super direct.
Yeah, so there's some loosey-goosey stuff.
It's more about the interdynamics, and I think one of them's socially awkward.
So, Zeroa is a level 4 fire spellcaster Tuna. So, hey, there's some Synchro guys in this archetype. This guy is their one tuner. He's 15-15, so pretty median stats, but he's a tuner, so it doesn't matter. You can target one Magician's monster you control equipped with Magician from your extra deck, so he's got, the other half of the Endymion type effect being fire. Makes sense, they're opposites. If this card becomes equipped with a Magician's monster card, you can special summon a level 4 spellcaster monster from your hand or graveyard in defense position except Zeroa, but it's negated. You can only use the effect of Zeroa once per turn. So, Zeroa is another equipped starter, but also is an extender to get you to another guy, by equipping. And if it has to be himself, he can do that so that you can get more guys, so you can do actual extra deck plays and presumably go into their Sync 8. I feel like this is the most obvious combo, but you could also overlay for the Xyz. You could go into the Link 2, etc. So, it's an okay concept, but I feel like, just reading these 4 guys, like Vesper mentioned earlier, these guys need more guys, basically. Because almost all of these guys, half of their effects are taken up with a hopped effect to do something with the equipping. And it means that there's not a lot of room for actual starter effects, and Endymion and Crowley kind of just waste space on weird aside effects. Only Zeroa actually extends by summoning a new guy. Obviously, Crowley can special summon himself, but, it's still a little loosey-goosey. And Riliona searches. None of these guys say, add a Magician's monster from your deck to your hand or anything, shit like that. They clearly are missing some of the bones that make a lot of archetypes go.
Yeah, it's a weird amalgamation of a lot of extension effects without any direct starting path to the combo.
Yeah.
Also, just one more aside.
Yeah.
The way it's worded makes it sound like Witchcrafter Jenny became a servant of Endymion, and not the other way around.
Well, I guess we'll see, because she very clearly is the same person with the costume. We did Witchcrafter before, so we've done one.
I'm just gonna copy paste the snippet of lore.
But the way that
2 lines.
Okay, near and dear to the good guild. Yeah, that's very vague, because the way it looks like in the Witchcrafter stuff is there's her spell card. Her monster card background. I think some of the other spell cards show her workshop, and she's got her little weird stick things from being servant of Endymion in the background, which implies that's happened already. So I don't fucking know. I don't know what these people anymore.
We're getting weird but it seems to be the Witchcrafter Guild is near Endymion, which could be the city or the man or both.
I think it's got to be the Citadel. At least I will say does make some sense with the way the Witchcrafters are portrayed. They have the card, Patronus and stuff, which shows a giant portrait of some magic lady that's not any of them. So clearly the guild has been around for a while.
Yeah, and the ingenuity of their magical goods have even caught the eye of the master magician himself. Yeah.
All right, so let's start looking at the extra deck. This card is Aiwas, the Magistus Spell Spirit, because its name in Japanese was Aiwas, the Magistus Saint.
And that name explicitly comes from the Book of Law. It comes from Crowley's diary logs or some sort.
Aleister Crowley claims that a voice called Aiwas.
Aleister Crowley, the man, not the Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Real life Aleister Crowley.
Claims to have been contacted by a supernatural entity named Aiwas, who provided him with the Book of Law.
So yeah, makes sense. The Japanese base translation of Aiwas is Aiwas the Law Book Guardian. So okay, yep, makes sense. I gotta say, like, art direction wise, I think there's some spell cards that show it a little better, but I actually don't really get how Aiwas is like thematically connected to any of the other shit with Crowley.
The best I can see is that he seems to be the inspiration for what the invoked monsters became. He could literally just be a random dude in some random lore or dungeon that Crowley came across, who said, here you go, dude, here's the Book of Law. And Crowley became and Crowley slowly was driven insane by it.
Yeah,
and so given ancient knowledge by a random elemental.
Yeah.
Well, not an elemental. Hey, I know this guy's called Magista Saint. Spoilers. This guy's a fiend monster. This is a fiend. Demon.
Oh, it's a djinn. Yeah. Okay, it's like a primordial.
It's straight up a demon.
Well, and we can bring up like another invoked monster to remind people of how they look like, but I don't think he's a Magistus monster, but he is very clearly more invoked design inspired than Magistus design inspired, which seems to be like as we mentioned of where his name originates from, seems to be what was he released in the first set or was
no, all of the guys we're talking about now are part of Genesis Impact to start.
So Aiwas is invoked but not in name.
Yeah. He is meant to be an invoked guy without being an invoked guy.
Yeah.
I will say this is brought up on the trivia page and it's good to remind. This guy's visual design is probably closest to Crowley's Alistair's staff, yeah.
I was noticing that it looks
it's
like
kind of got that.
It almost
that
looks like the
overlap.
staff was made out of him or something.
So definitely like got some connections here. So other than that, I don't think there's a lot to say about Aiwas. He's got lots of biblical angel vibes or like.
Yeah, I was trying to get how to phrase it. He is very much a horror we are not supposed to comprehend.
Or probably like a middle tier like SMT angel type character. Like he's not honestly humanoid or eldritch enough to be an endgame guy.
Actually,
but he's a little too.
He's actually. I don't think I'd actually see him in a SD game. He's more like a weird Digimon, actually.
Oh, there's your fucking bingo card, everybody. Check it off.
I'm just saying it's not this game. It's more like this game's art style. Because I actually knowing SB Angels that usually be more like graphic or like more purely metallic.
Yeah,
he's by no means offensive or inoffensive. He is just here. He is a collection of geometric shapes.
Yeah. So, Aiwas the Magistus Spell Spirit is a Wind Fiend fusion.
Which
very
I think is
type.
meant to be playing into the invoked aesthetic.
Yeah. He's level 8, because obviously, like, the main deck guys are all 4. The extra deck guys are going to be either rank 4 or level 8. It's just, like, very simple. He's got 2,000 attack, 2,800 defense, so very funny to consider that number. Materials, semi-generic, any one Magistus monster, any one spellcaster monster. So, again, kind of playing to the fact that, like, Konami clearly understands that you cannot run this Magistus deck pure. There's literally not enough main deck guys, so you can include some generic spellcaster stuff and still be able to pull this off. Or, hypothetically, if you're playing, like, an invoked deck, you could include a Magistus Crowley as, like, a Magistus guy to, Wambo Camo with, like, an Alistair, engrave and shit. Like, it's generic enough to stay loose, but still, like, mean you can't play him in a completely generic deck. If only because none of the Magistus monsters are good enough to splash into generic decks.
Well, and it could very well be that these cards were designed not as a reaction to Yugen Carrier, like it very, very clearly taking inspiration from how those cards were designed and how like the Yugen monster aesthetic.
Yeah.
But they're very much designed to not be generic enough to just whip out with any random card to equip with.
Yeah. And, like, on paper, Aiwas seems like a good guy. So, first of all, his first line of attacks is, well, this card's an equipped card. The equipped monster gains 1,000 attack and defense.
Pretty solid.
Sure.
Like,
if you're going through the hoops of getting him out, that's all right. That's all right, Like, that's that turns, Crowley into a 2800 beater. That makes Endymion, 23, etc. The only one it's weak on is Rilyona, because that does at least make her a 2800 defender, but it means she's only got like 1800 attack. But it's a decent gap. The other effect that's very interesting is, and I think he's got this good effect because as a fusion monster, this guy, because he's not a contact fusion, he's not easy to cheat out. You have to use a fusion spell to get him to actually summon him. During the main phase, quick effect. Target one other face-up monster on the field. Equip this card you control to it. If this card was equipped to an opponent's monster by this effect, take control of the equipped monster. Also, it can't activate its effect. So you can only use this effect of Iwas once per turn. So yeah, Iwas is a quick effect, in the main phase anyway, Snatch Steal.
I'm also curious if this card you control means you can activate it in the spell and trap zone, but probably not. It's a monster effect.
Yeah, I think the way that it works as an equip card, it doesn't have that effect. It would be much better if it did, but yeah, in general, Iwas is a guy who's like actually got a decent effect. This has stuff for you. It works as an interruption for your opponent, because then you can't activate its effect while it's equipped. Your opponent can't activate its effect either. Its effects are locked down, and it's also got an extra 1,000 attack and is taken control of. And obviously, it's going to be a quick effect on field, so your opponent has to play into it. But that's how a lot of single target spot removal interruption works. Is your opponent knows Iwas does a thing. If they fucking remember that this is an actual part of Yu-Gi-Oh! That people always downplay but actually works, is you can play the most out-of-pocket shit in a deck, and if your opponent's never seen it, you've got a solid, I want to say, 50-50, possibly even 75-20 odds that your opponent will just go, oh, I've never heard of this card, it can't possibly do anything, and just walk right into this shit. So, there's a possibility for a gotcha in there. But
okay,
it's
yeah,
definitely...
you cannot use Iwas's effect
Okay.
in the spell trap. I figured. Had to test that real quick.
Yeah. So Iwas is he should be good, obviously because he's the fusion, so you need a fusion spell to get to him.
Thankfully, we do have a Magistus invocation.
Yeah. I do think that Iwas is otherwise probably a little too limited on his own, just because basically, if you actually fusion summon this guy, you either use him as a, fucking, 1k attack gainer, or your opponent just goes, okay, so I'm going to play around this to the idea that, if I try to do my combo, you're just going to steal my guy, so I need to, move around it. So, very interesting stuff there. Now, once this finishes loading, we'll pull up our next one. So, continuing down the extra deck line, we have a Archetype Link 1. That's right, they don't have a Link 4. This is Artemis the Magistus Moon Maiden. Artemis the Magistus Maiden, Artemis the Sacred Magic Maiden. So, all this stuff kind of going on around.
I think Endymion just hires her basically as a professor, or she, I guess, becomes a goddess of magic, I guess.
Well, she's still a spellcaster, and remember her link form, we will be talking about later, is Selene, Queen of the Master Magicians. She is the Magic Empress. So, hey, this is Endymion's girlfriend. Also, by the way, does this mean Endymion is a groomer? Discuss, chat.
I don't know.
Real quick, Omega.
Go
this
for
is
it.
Reflection of Endymion as well.
Oh, she's also Reflection. Okay, yeah.
So we can pull that up if we want, I guess.
Let me grab... I think her Link 3 version is probably more appropriate.
Yeah,
it could be more of when she gets older, it's a thing, or is it a thing now?
I don't know if they're in a relationship now,
Reflection seemed to be her.
Yeah. Because obviously, like I said, this is an archetype that's in the past, and some future shit happens. Definitely, I feel like the idea here is that when Endymion is older, because he is the Magic King, though I don't know, he might fuck off in the meantime, but I'm pretty sure these two, because she's referred to as the Empress, are gonna get married. Once again, feel free to discuss if Endymion is a groomer, chat.
Well, but does he have platonic relations or not?
I don't know. Now, I'm sorry, I'm just thinking of all the fucking shitty Twitter drama these guys would be caught up in.
Honestly,
Vare
I think
fucking
of them-
pretends to be a miner. Endymion could be a groomer. One of them is fucking dead. He blew himself up. And Crowley clearly started listening to the wrong fucking podcast.
And horribly mutated himself until they.
He started listening too much to Iwa's podcast. He became book pilled. A fusion cell.
Listen, he just learned if you keep reading unnatural tomes, you start to learn the rules of the universe and nothing means anything anymore and it's bendable.
But yeah,
he did that too much.
The Artemis Magistus Moon Maiden, who becomes Selene, Queen of the Master Magicians. Artemis and Selene are both moon goddesses in Greek, though technically they are different, but they both have purview over the moon.
They also become a level 7 pendulum monster in Endymion.
In the Endymion goop, which, like I said, we might get to, because we're like most of the way through the extra deck, and we're only an hour in, so we might, depending on how much we yell at some of these future cards and how dumb they are, we might actually do an Endymion run. But this is very similar to Crowley to Alistair. This is very clearly, you can tell, okay, this person was baby mode. She is now an adult. Possibly a mommy. Although this is the censored card art, by the way. She doesn't have that, she doesn't have her cleavage shield in the OCG.
I guess the weirdest thing to say is I also don't even know if, like, is it a weird thing, Omega? I don't even know if it's a groomer thing, because it might just be a formal thing. And I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I don't actually know what Endymion fucking does. Keep in mind that he becomes a purple man with, like, who carries a hovering ring behind him, so we don't actually know what's up with Endymion. We also don't actually know how old these people are. Like I said, I joked that, like, he looks like an adult already and then goes through a midlife crisis. This is anime. He could just be 17. We don't fucking know.
The only age we canonically know is Witchcrafter Vare, who was apparently not.
What age she regresses herself to.
Yeah, which is there's clearly something has gone on here. Because they could pull out, Vare is, Witchcrafter Vare is secretly Riona's daughter and just pretended to be, like, the boss or something, but there's not any actual hints for that. So Artemis the Magistus Moon Maiden is a Link spellcaster, so we actually keep the same type in the extra deck. She's a Link 1.
Or spellcaster monster, which is the Magistus cards.
And also, again, has some decent room there. Unfortunately, to penalize you for playing Magistus, she has the front-facing arrow. So if you want to use her to Link climb or some shit, get fucked.
Technically you can, but you have to use her like as a third thing to do.
Yeah, what you have to do is you have to use your other Magistus main deck monsters, which you can't really combo with.
Yeah, there's no, like, extension there. If another Magistus monster is normal or special, you control this monster except during damage step. Target one of those monsters, equip this card to it. While this card is equipped to a monster, you can add a Magistus monster from your deck to your hand. So there's your monster searcher we were mentioning earlier. You can only use each effect once per turn. You can only special summon this card once per turn. This shit sucks.
If it's an equipped card and it's in the spell trap zone, does its forward arrow count?
No.
Nope.
Sadly, they have prevented that shit.
It should.
It should. I want them to print judgment arrows just to be funny, but Konami is too afraid of that.
I feel like if it's a Link 1 that's a judgment arrow, that's fine.
No, this, I think they just made her a Link monster because they needed a 4th extra deck type, and they wanted an extra deck monster you could summon for this archetype that was a 1-card summon, as opposed to, like, the Fusions, Xyz, and Synchro, which all require at least 2 Mets. This card reads, no, don't Link climb, no, don't make Hauk, don't you dare! Like, this is such a, like, you are not allowed to Link climb with this card. You can only summon her once per turn. She's got a forward-facing arrow.
This card was definitely printed in the period where they realized, oh god, oh no, we fucked up Links really bad. Oh god, how do we course correct?
And the problem is that you get a crappy Link 1. Go ahead, Axe.
I forever believe that Hauk should have been locked to... Why am I reading the archetype notes? God damn it. Crystron. I feel like it should have, like, only summoned Krystrons, and you require the Crystron to make it. I think a lot of Links should have been locked to the archetype.
Yes. Unfortunately, yes, but...
That's a general problem.
It should have required at least one Noble Knight.
The problem is that Konami, because Konami was very effective at making those monsters really good by making them generic, because they were trying to not have to rewrite the entire rules of Yu-Gi-Oh, which they did fucking anyway, but they wanted to make it so that all types of monsters could get access to a guy with the fucking the diagonal arrows, so you could make more extra deck plays. The problem is that means that those cards that were supposed to be archetype pieces were really, really fucking good, and some of them were obviously too good, as many of them are banned now.
I do want to say that I like some people who have basically coped into Max C. I just believe that Hulk, if it was locked to Crystron, people would have been running like Crystron packages, and it would have been relatively fine because Crystron are like only okay.
Yeah, no, I think you could have done stuff with like running a Crystron package to get to Hulk, but yeah, there's definitely some loose in there. We haven't talked about what Artemis's art at all, by the way. She's fine. She's a fucking moon lady.
On the left, she reminds me of like a girl I'd see in a shoujo manga.
She resembles Cinderella more than the Cinderella card in the archetype.
It's a little funny, yeah. It's because her slippers are blue. But she's got some moon shit. Unfortunately, Artemis sucks. I don't know how... I mean, I'll explain why I think that, but we didn't even mention her attack stat. She's a Link 1, so her attack sucks. She's got 800 attack.
The main problem is that for Artemis's effect to proc, you first have to have normal summoned. You have to have summoned a spellcaster or a Magistus card.
Yep.
Link summoned into her, and then summon another Magistus monster in the same turn.
To search another Magistus monster,
designed to do.
Which, unless the Magistus monster you summoned is Crowley, which, by the way, you have to have already done because, you know, that's how you're going to get more guys on field for this play. Though I guess you could do a Zeroa line. But, like, you still need one... After she's summoned, you need one more summon. And then you got to search a guy. What guy are you going to search? Only Crowley can special summon himself. There's no point.
Not only, but yeah, also you've probably already used at least 2 effects of your Magistus monsters.
Yes, and all of them are
if you're playing pure Magistus to get through this.
Like obviously, I think this works best with Endymion or Zeroa, who can just equip a guy from extra deck anyway. Like obviously Zeroa automatically triggers her effect by equipping her and then summoning another guy from your hand.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
there's so much better stuff you could do with that. It's a weird extender because she's an extender that says, hey, after you make me and I extend once by searching, I am not allowed to extend anymore. You cannot, like, do a cute, like Link angle play with me. You gotta, like, use only your Link zones and shit. And it's just like...
Yeah, Artemis is undertuned, I would say.
Yeah. For an in-archetype Link 1, which are usually, like, really broken, this was Konami was like, shit, dude, we can't keep printing fucking salads.
Yeah, compare Artemis to, like, fucking Dark Infant, which does 17 things and makes you your coffee.
Yeah.
When you summon it.
And it's funny, because we've looked at 2 of them, right? So, the... Artemis is super undertuned. Like, they should have just made her another main deck monster that had the monster searching effect and not, like, fucked around with the Link part and made a better Link one.
For all we know, we could get Artemis as another main deck monster because she's not real yet.
Yeah. You know, you could work around that. But, like, Iwaz is, like, interruption, right? Like, he's a control tool because he's a quick effect snatch steal. We have not yet seen, like, a extra deck play. And we will probably not for a while. This is Ninaruru, the Magistus Glass Goddess. This is a glass statue, so obviously very connected to Cendrillon.
Looks to be based, according to at least the Wikipedia, is based off a Sumerian fertility goddess.
Yes, Ninhursag.
Ninhursag. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm probably not.
Yeah, it's Ninhursag. It's close. Yeah, it's fine. You've got the right ballpark. There's also like 3 other different transcriptions.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also the name used for Aruru, which is the Witchcrafter Golem. So, you know, she's Ninaruru. So obviously, this is a thing that, you know, the glass one is involved in that is recreated later as Golem Aruru. And, like, does actually have some similar notes, but it's not super similar. But, you know, they're working on it. They're trying.
she is an Xyz monster.
Yes, this is your Xyz, so she's rank 4, because you put 2 4s together. This is a rock.
Who also needs 2 level 4 spellcaster monsters,
yes.
which, as we will see, or as we've already seen, not impossible to make, but if you've made it,
yeah.
you're not making this, you're not summoning her. You are equipping her.
So she's got 1800 attack, 2400 defense, which are not great stats for a rank 4. So you're like, oh shit, does she have a good effect? No.
Okay, mid-range effects. Okay, mid-range stats.
Yeah.
It's nothing mind-blowing.
Not too high, not super low, but like not enough to like stand on her own. So you're like, okay, so obviously I'm doing something with this monster. What am I doing? Well, first of all, while this card's an equipped card, the equipped monster can make 2 attacks each battle phase. Cool. You can only use each effect of the following of Ni no Ruru once per turn. So you can detach one material from this card, target a level 4 or higher spellcaster monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. While this card is equipped to a monster, you can target a Magistus card in your spell trap zone and 1 card in your opponent's zones, destroy them. Cool. She has a pop cycling effect, and she gets guys out of your graveyard. Cool.
And as we discussed with Endymion, none of our Magistus spell or trap cards really benefit from being destroyed, so it is purely just to exhaust the other equipped Magistus cards.
Like, obviously,
I
can see the flow, right? Like,
yeah,
she needs 2 4s, so detach Crowley, put him in the graveyard, or detach Rileona, put her in graveyard. You know, get back another guy to hand because you may have one, but if you don't have one, you're fucked. But if you have one in graveyard, you can then do the pop effect to get rid of your opponent's card and then just re-equip from graveyard with Rileona or Crowley. This is a deck that, like, God, did they intend for this to play grass or something? Like, you need cards, you need monsters on board, so you need monsters in hand, but also you really like to have lots of monsters in graveyard. How the fuck are you supposed to do this? I guess Crowley sends when he summons, but it requires a lot of resources to do anything, and you're not getting enough out of it, and none of these have any of the, like, really spicy tech. So, unfortunately, Ni no Ruru is a very mid card because her pop effect is only while she's equipped, so literally there's no reason to use her. Other than to just equip her from deck.
I will give one compliment to Magistus, which will end up a very heavy insult to next week's Archetype. At least this has a concept design built around it that is meant to function.
Yes, that's right. You've been experimenting with Sulfur and it's weird.
I won't bury the lead too much. I will just a quick small primer. Sulfur has like 5 different design concepts mashed into one archetype, and it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah. All right, so we have our next guy.
Yeah, like while I putting up the next card with Magistus, while they don't do much, like they do not have a pure like major design concept at the super high level, but there is plenty of things this deck could do. Sulfur is just a bunch of cards that have effects that you're like, okay, well, where's the synergy happening? There's no synergy as opposed to this, where there's at least a resemblance of synergy.
Yeah,
you know?
There's, like I said, I can see the lines. The problem is that they're bad. They're bad lines. They're not gonna They're not worth committing the resources to play this deck and make these cards, at least the previous examples. But this is Varam, the Magistus Divinity Dragon, Varam the Magistus Dragon, or Varam the Absolute Flame Dragon God. Varam is similar to what's the phrase? Atesh Beram, which is a
which the
class
highest
of
grade
fire.
Of fire. Yeah.
So he is a very sacred flame, if you will. And yeah, he's a fire attribute, so, like, we get it. He's got a similar color scheme to Zeroa, so, all right, cool. We've got a flame dragon god. There's nothing that can go wrong from unbottling a dragon god.
Yeah, like what could go wrong?
I won't literally be using the word calamity in, like, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But aesthetically...
But
yep,
how would you describe the calamity? Would you say it's conflagrant?
Yeah. But, I mean, like, art design-wise, Varam, perfectly fine.
He's a cool fire dragon.
Yeah,
like
he's going for that
like,
kind of Firebird effect on his dragoniness, and I'm like, yeah, this is good.
As much as we harp on Yu-Gi-Oh for making a lot of dragons, they can make dragons look cool, and they usually do. I do like how this guy looks like he has 2 tails.
Yeah, it does kind of look like he's got twin tails, which is cool. He's got a lot of like extra spikes, but there's not so many extra spikes that you're like, damn, this dude has too many spikes.
He's also he's a bird-like dragon too, with his feather wings.
And I will say the color scheme of this guy is like, this guy could be a Fire King.
Yeah, you know? I was gonna say it because I had the Fire King structure deck like 2 feet away from me, and I keep looking at him. He's a Fire King.
Yeah,
basically.
no, and that's fine because Magistus is such a mashup of other decks aesthetics anyway. Like, if you want to double down, like, yeah, no, this guy's important to fire. That's fine. I get it.
And to pair with, like that Middle Eastern Iranian aesthetic, Fire Kings have a lot of similar Middle Eastern or like more, kind of more Indian leaning, but still in that same general
but still
region
between
where,
them, yeah, because like
there's
Ponyx and
a lot of
Garunix are like
overlap
part Phoenix and stuff.
In cultural symbolism in Middle East and the Indian subcontinent when it comes to religious.
So yeah, there's definitely some overlap vibes. So Varam is a Fire Dragon Synchro, level 8, 2500 attack, 2900 defense. So like, again, not attack leaning, but all right stats for an 8 Synchro. And is our first extra deck monster that is completely generic. 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuners.
He's a Sync 8, which a lot of decks can make.
One of the easiest combos in the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, and this guy is one of the cover cards on Genesis Impact. Like, again, we don't like to say pushed, especially because this archetype's really not pushed. It has not gotten a lot of support, but this is the guy that Konami is like, this is the cool one. We're gonna make.
And
this
I
guy
will
cool.
say, of the Magistus artworks, this is like the one that we've talked about. You know,
yeah,
so
we've actually like discussed him.
He looks nice.
So, yeah, we didn't talk about Ninaru at all, but she's a glass lady, and there's not much to say. She had a cute cat.
He looks like a megalith monster.
She had a cute cat. That was nice. Anyway, Varam, while he's an equip card, the equip monster can't be destroyed by your opponent's spell trap effects. Okay.
Yeah,
solid
protection effect. Like, nothing crazy. Yeah. It's fine.
You can use each of the following effects once per turn. If this Synchro Summon card is destroyed, destroy all face-up cards your opponent controls, which is a floating effect, but is unfortunately not relevant to the equip part because that's if he's Synchro Summoned. It's written so that doesn't work. But at the start of the damage step, if the monster this card equips you battles an opponent's monster, destroy that monster. So Varam is actually a decent investment. If your opponent blows him up, their face-up cards go away. So they have to choose when to get rid of him very carefully.
Seeing that this card was generic, I can definitely see why they chose this guy out of the archetype to be the front man for the front man for the archetype to kind of let's see who was the card like. Okay, this card's pretty solid. Like in Magistus.
If you had a tuner in Fire Kings, this guy could go in Fire King decks. He's a fire you can destroy.
And he's basically a baby Black Rose. Like he's a baby Black Rose in essence.
And I want to point out, this is if this Synchro Summon card is destroyed, period. So card effects do it. Battle does it, your opponent's effects, and your own effects. So it's a very free-range floating effect.
And who knows? There could have been very clear intent by making him very Fire King in Fire King similar to a Fire King design. Yeah, I don't know why that was so hard to say.
It has. I was going to say it reminds you. It's like Fire King Dragon.
Yeah, and like you can easily pop this guy after Synchro Summoning because Fire Kings are a lot of 4s and 8s. I don't think they have an inbuilt tuner, but you can always just run a generic fire tuner. I'm sure there's plenty.
Yeah, actually, I should consider because this guy's an 8 dragon to play him in.
You could play Zeroa if you were down bad.
Yeah, that guy is a fire tuner. I was also gonna say I should see if I can do any weird tech with destroying him in Mahjong Dragons, Tenpai Dragons, because he's an 8 fire dragon.
They're also fire dragons.
Yeah, no, that should flow together very well as like a tech piece. The equipped stuff is like. That's much harder to pull off out of Archetype, but in Archetype is actually okay. Like,
and
you get Spell Trap protection, and you get to do, I don't remember which monster it is that does that effect normally, but the when you declare an attack, destroy, when you battle, you destroy.
Cataster.
Yeah. So like that's a decent effect to pull off there. The problem I guess is that I'm seeing is that none of these guys, these extra deck guys, is good enough on their own to like be the guy you equip all the other equip spells to, except maybe Varam. But then you'd also have to be playing multiple copies of Varam so you can equip Varam with Varam.
I think looking at just pure stats, a boy we may discuss in just a moment may become that guy, but he also is still not amazing.
Yeah, there's a couple of extra deck monsters they added, and I can see now why they decided to add them. We're gonna speed through their four spells real quick. This is Magistus Invocation.
It's Invocation, baby.
Iwaz gives Alistair a book.
Iwaz reading the Book of Law to Crowley, like we mentioned earlier in Crowley's lore.
It just reads, fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters in your hand or field as material, including a spellcaster monster. So it is technically a generic fusion spell. It is a poly. You just have to have a spellcaster.
If something of Magistus Fusion monster this way, you can use monster in your spell and trap zone. So you could theoretically use an equipped Magistus monster.
Yeah, to actually get that
to fulfill the Magistus need, and then a spellcaster monster if you're playing any other spellcaster archetype.
Yeah, so there's plenty of wiggle room in that, and that's like, okay. This was our thumbnail card, but I want to pull this art up in full because this is top 10 pictures taken before disaster. This is Magistus Theurgy. In Japanese, the OCG, this is Theologica or Theologia Magistus.
Which they probably changed. Just it's a bit too close to getting religious.
Yeah. It's a little up there, but you can very clearly see in this picture what I described before. The Crowley, Endymion, and Rilona are doing a triangle of power on Zeroa, who's standing in the middle and sucking up some fire stuff. This has never gone great like once.
Like. Remember like a month ago when we discussed the Eldritch archetype and how totally well everything went when they made the white Eldlixir?
Yeah. The only way this goes correctly is if these guys are a party of 4 and there's a horrible Demon King on the other end of this pyramid. I don't think there is. This is not our team-up attack where, we all use the power of friendship to blow up a guy. This is Zeroa's like, okay, guys, we all have different schools of magic. If we just channel all the magic juice into me...
Can we pull up Trismegistus?
Yeah, I can grab that one next.
No, I think we should pull it next to it because Trismegistus is just a diagram of what they're doing right now.
That's fair, yeah. Yeah, we read the book. Also, I'm very suspicious about this illustration all of a sudden. This is a very specific spell book. Did we write this down after the fact?
What could possibly be in this spell book? This spell book could perhaps be a book of law.
Yeah, it's got the little details. So man, wow, I was like fucker. Don't listen to that guy.
It's almost like that demon knew this would probably lead Crowley down the path he needed him to go to.
Yeah. It's almost like spellcasters messing around with demons never ends well.
Never summon something you can't put down. Yeah. So Magistus Theurgy is a quick play spell card that says, target a Magistus monster you control, equip it with a Magistus monster, except a level 4 monster from your extra deck, graveyard, or face-up field. If you have at least one each Magistus Fusion Synchro Season Link monster in your graveyard, you can equip one non-Magistus Fusion Synchro Season Link monster from your extra deck instead. You can only activate Theurgy once per turn. This is cute. I do not know what that second clause does. Are there non-Magistus materials that are good? I guess technically, let me actually backtrack a little to Invocation. Yes, you can use monsters in your spell trap zones equipped to Magistus monsters, so you could use Theurgy to set up another fusion, but only after you already have all 4 of your extra deck monsters in the graveyard. So, like, it's weird. I do like that this is part of their original wave of support, right? I do like that this gets your equip effect as a quick play from fucking anywhere.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's an equip effect, like.
I mean, there are, but I don't it's weird. Like, they don't work. Like, you could do shit with, like, the Claw of Hermos monsters, you know, Rocket Hammer, Red Eyes Black Dragon Sword, shit like that. Because those have effects when equipped, but is it worth doing that? Also, I think you could just play Claw of Hermos in this deck.
Yeah, like, you wouldn't really go through that much effort,
yeah.
I think.
Literally, you could just play Claw of Hermos to get that out rather than go into the second effect of 3G. The first effect is good. It's a quick play. It lets you do stuff like you know, get an Iwaz in your graveyard. Your opponent thinks they've got you. You know, flip up the 3G, and you're like, oh, my guy is like 1,000 extra attack now, by the way.
They're just still a good card. I'm just trying to see if there's actually any cards that care. Like, I guess the Plunder Patrol monsters? I don't know.
I guess there's some Plunder stuff you could do. I mean, they do have all different attributes. I could see them going, this could be a cute wombo combo with Plunder.
Yeah, like I'm just scrolling through seeing if there are any actual cards that care about being equipped and having effects when they're equipped.
Yeah. So we mentioned Trismegistus, their one continuous spell card. It's one of those cards that reads like it should be a field spell, but they wanted to give you a continuous spell instead, possibly because you might want to run, like, Magical Citadel of Endymion or Magical Meltdown instead, kind of a thing. Secret Village of Spellcasters, etc. Like, there's a lot of good field spells you could play in this deck. So Trismegistus is your continuous spell that does everything. The first time each Magistus monster equipped with an equip card will be destroyed by battle each turn, it isn't.
I found the card to equip. It's Gaia Armor Dragon Shell.
Oh yeah, that guy does have an equip.
It's a synchro monster that when an attack is declared involving the monster equipped with this card, you can draw a card.
Yeah, you play that as the one of. Cool.
Yeah.
So Trismegistus gives you once per turn battle protection on all your Magistus monsters who are equipped, and has 2 once per turn effects. During your main phase, special summon a level 4 spellcaster monster from your hand. There it is. We found the extension, everybody. This is how you get 2 guys on the field.
Also Armor Yarm, I guess. Like,
yeah.
I'll stop looking now, but
look, it works, I guess.
There's
there's
a non-zero number of monsters that can actually benefit from it.
Yeah.
It's really just, would you dedicate the space to them?
Yeah, it's the space you'd need. And also you have to go through 4 of your extra deck names to even do that effect anyway.
Yeah.
And then Trismegistus says you can send this face-up card to the graveyard, special summon any number of Magistus monsters with different names from your hand. So it's kind of like a weird from-hand soul charge. It's basically like pendulum summoning them. But you have to send it. This also is, by the way, why Endymion has a bad effect. You don't get that effect if you send Trismegistus. You literally lose advantage that way.
The only thing Endymion does after having read Theurgy is, I guess I guess he could be situational, like deck, like graveyard filling for Theurgy, but that's the most I can think of.
Yeah, it's a really weird effect. Trismegistus is actually, like I said, though, a good card because it just gives you a free special summon of any level 4 or lower spellcaster once per turn.
And while we're discussing spell cards,
yeah.
Hey guys, this has no field spell. Do you know what field spell you could run in this deck full of spellcaster monsters?
Secret Village.
Yeah, just
Village.
Why not?
It's ideal for that kind of floodgate shit. I would do the joke about giving him a skill drain, but it's not because it's spell cards. But still, it's yeah.
Yeah, like
spellcasters inherently have a floodgate.
I would never advocate playing floodgates in your deck for the sake of it, but Secret Village is like the one. It's the one niche case where, like, yeah, that's probably fine.
So this is our final spell card. This is Magistus Vritra. Hey, you people know what that is. The kanji in this card's name involves. It seems to be a play on the word Kengen, manifest. Manifestation of Absolute Flame is its OCG full name. So yeah, this is what happens after we do the Theurgy. Zeroa gets to go to the astral plane of fire and contact the dragon god, and he seems a little annoyed, guys.
It looks like Zeroa's about to punch a dragon in the face.
Yeah, I don't think
find out how well that goes for him in a moment.
I don't think Varam liked this wake up call. But yeah, this is another interesting one. This is just a normal spell. It says target a level 4 lower Magistus. Good future proofing, by the way. Level 4 lower Magistus monster in your graveyard. Special it. If a Magistus card in your spell trap zone would be destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can banish this card from the graveyard instead. You can use each effect once per turn. this is just a good extender. Like,
Yeah, it's
all of their spell cards are like good. They're reasonable.
For as much as we've complained about the main deck monsters not having much synergy, their spell cards are all solid. Like they like they don't do ridiculous things by themselves. But
If you draw or if you searched a spell card that was Magistus, it's probably got a use.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's something in it for you.
It's also kind of what I meant earlier by saying how this deck has a very older school design mentality, where the spell cards are all the power cards in the archetype compared to the monster.
And I mean,
just being toolbox mechanics.
Being vaguely Endymion related, that makes sense because like spell counters and stuff like that. The problem is that none of these guys have any spell counter effects on their own.
And also that spell counters for spell Konami really dumped spell counters as a concept.
Yeah.
Before remaking Endymion, and was that before or after this? I can never remember.
No. Old school Endymion is the peak spell counter period. He was the structure deck that really pushed that, and I didn't do anything.
I meant the Pendulum Endymion stuff.
Pendulum Endymion? That was before this. So yeah.
Okay.
That is like the last time I think they tried to make spell counters matter, and technically did, because hey, guess what? There are a lot of spellcaster monsters that are also pendulum monsters for some ungodly
also
reason.
The mystical beasts or something.
Yeah,
right?
there was the mythical beasts guys. Yeah.
Yeah, mythical beasts also cared about spell counters with when they remade the pendulum shit.
Yeah, so they tried, but Konami by the year 2000 had definitely given up on that. So they've got two extra deck monsters we talked about. First, because this was the first one that came out, in Lightning Overdrive, middle of the next year. But this is 2021. Genesis Impact is late 2020. This is Riliona, the Wondrous Magistus Witch Wardrobe. Cindrilion the Magistus Witch, or Cindrilion the Crystal Witch. It's Riliona wearing a bigger dress and standing on the same plinth that Ninaruru is standing on.
It feels like this is what she was before everything went horribly wrong. This is I guess we're a few years into the thing.
The Wikipedia has noticed an interesting thing in her name.
Yeah.
Where she is Riliona, the Wondrous Magistus Witch of the Wardrobe.
Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, I want to point this out, how the wiki phrases this. The trivia page says, is a reference to Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, a popular fantasy novel. Yeah, no shit, guys. Obviously, this is a form of Madame Vere. Similar appearance, does effects, actually does Vere-like things. This is another weird one. This is actually, unlike Ninaruru, I think this is a card you could actually play in Witchcrafter, because this is a light spellcaster Xyz, so it's not a rock.
It needs 2 level 4 spellcaster monsters with different attributes.
Which works for both Witchcrafter and Magistus.
Yeah.
She's a rank 4
even
who
in
has...
Endymion in some cases.
Yes.
I don't know.
And she is a rank 4 who has Madame Vere stats. She is a rank 4 Xyz with 1,000 attack and 2,800 defense. Good stats.
Yeah, so she is actually a Magistus monster you may want to summon.
So we already typed in her materials. She says you can detach one material from this card. Special summon a Magistus monster from your deck, but also you can't special summon monsters from your extra deck the rest of this turn except Magistus monsters. Just
really good effect.
Get them from
really, really bad lock.
Yeah. The problem, like we've said, is there's no good Magistus extra deck guy to stop at. Also, she still has an equip effect. While this card's equipped to a monster, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls. Negate its effects at the end of this turn. You use each effect once per turn.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Pretty good.
She has Vere's spot negation and also can fetch from deck. The problem is, once again, that you're locked. Now, again, Witchcrafters don't actually go in their extra deck much at all unless you have exactly 5 guys to make Quintet Magician. So,
and that may have been intentional, but also it feels in a sense of okay, you can splash Magistus in Witchcrafter now, I guess.
Yeah. They added a Witchcrafter fusion monster later who is good. That said, I believe she may do some stuff with summoning anyway, so you might just have extra guys. And then our final, card in this archetype, our last extra deck void to be added. This was added, printed once. I mentioned this earlier in Burst of Destiny. By the way, quite possibly one of the best sets of 2021.
And this guy was also in there.
Yeah, and also starring this dude. We kind of said his name earlier, but this is
Zeroa, the Magistus, Conflagrant Calamity.
Phonetically, Zeroa the Magistus Daimon. They make sure to spell it really weird. Zeroa the Absolute Flame Devil.
Does he have 3 eyes?
Yeah, I think so. Hey, so how do we think that talk with Varam went, guys?
I think those 2 guys became 1 guy.
And they had to stop it. And it probably traumatized all the process.
Yeah, no, he became a devil man.
So
I mean, he looks rad.
This guy is slightly non-generic. He needs a spellcaster tuner, but the other material is generic.
And like looking at his art, I mean, it's basically just we literally fused Varam and Zeroa, but like he still looks good.
Yeah.
He's still looking good. He's looking a little freaky now, which I think is intentional, but all the bits you want are there.
You could synchro him with the Golden Sword Soul.
It's very funny. So yeah, he is another level 8 synchro. He is a fire spellcaster. He has 2,900 attack and 1,500 defense. So again, giving you kind of like an actual stat line to like base your deck around.
Yeah, like at the very least, if you have no other good options for a guy to equip your Magistus to, you can bring this guy out, and he would just be a big asshole.
And of course, he actually plays into this because his first effect is if this card is synchro summoned, you can equip a Magistus summon from your extra deck to this card. Just on summon, no other fucking around. He immediately gets a guy equipped to him. Your opponent can't activate effects of monsters with the same card type, Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link, as a Magistus monster in your spell and trap zone. Hey, guess what? We found it. The Floodgate.
We found the Floodgate, man. Unfortunately, he can only block extra decks, but if you can just toss Artemis on this guy, you can shut down like 40% of decks that are just built around Link climbing.
Also, if this card's in your graveyard, you can target a Magistus card you control, destroy it, special summon this guy. So this is the closest we have come to a good card. When he is summoned, he automatically goes into your extra deck. You need no other setup for him.
And
he's
even though
he has a good
was
stat
a
line.
dragon, he was a fire dragon, so he's also a phoenix. Don't worry about it.
Yes.
He's always going to come back.
And then it gives your opponent this kind of like extra deck type lockout. The problem is, the problem is I don't know what order. Let me phrase it this way. I don't know if this is a going first or going second deck. Because, like, they have a couple of control tools, like Iwas, etc. I think you're supposed to, like, play this going second into your opponent's board so you can break it and, like, attack twice and shit. The problem is this deck has no inherent protection for that.
Yeah, I would say, while our Conflagrant lad he's pretty well designed for going first or second. Going second, you will probably just get 7 negates dropped on your ass when you try to make this
guy. Synchro Zeroa is like one of the greatest Game 2 and Game 3 cards ever, because you will know what your opponent's extra deck strategy is, hopefully, and be able to just immediately go, no, turn 1, fuck you, Link's out of there. What's that? You synchro a lot? No, we're not doing that,
Yeah.
And actually, like, set up the stuff to give these guys protection and actually, like, do your whole combo. The problem is, I don't know what you do if you're going first blind. I guess just with Zeroa, you just, like you said, tag Artemis and pray. But
tag Artemis and hope your opponent really has to Link climb.
Yeah, hope your opponent really needs that Link 1 and they don't have any gas to take care of it, because Artemis does not have the protection effect when equipped.
And at the very least, if you make Zeroa equip Artemis, if you have any other extension, you're gonna get a search.
Yeah. So like, there's stuff here. I am actually, unlike Sky Striker, which is a deck that I'm like, nobody asked for more Sky Striker support. Literally, the only thing that Sky Striker needs is they would be probably a tier 1 deck if you just put Ngag to 3. People are still playing Sky Striker. Sky Striker got a fucking top 8 like this last weekend, okay? Like, that happened. That deck doesn't need shit.
Yeah,
Striker's one of those decks that like just will not die. But it just needs
like 5 more cards. Or like honestly, it probably could just need 1 or 2. But I think being generous,
if
we just need another wave of main deck support for this deck.
Yeah, if we assume that the template that Sky Striker got carries through, they got like 5 or 6 new cards through this support. Some of which were main deck monsters. They weren't really that good because that's how Sky Striker is, but they exist. And a couple of other extras, like 2 more links.
Vesper, I have to apologize. I thought you were saying Sky Striker needed like 6 more cards.
No. We're talking about Magistus here. In parallel to the Sky Striker support. Like Striker got like 6 new cards. Yeah, no. Let me grab you guys the list.
Killer of the Future, Cyanos, and a bunch of Link monsters.
Yeah. There's some guys. But hey.
This fucker is playing Gores.
This got top 8 in a WCQ regional. This person is trying to qualify for Worlds.
I guess that one Gores was really necessary to make this deck that 41st card.
I mean, they're playing triple upstart, so they're
playing triple upstart, so it doesn't matter.
They're playing 3 upstart.
They don't actually care that much.
They've got 2 Ngag, 3 upstart. This deck is actually fucking 35 cards.
Yeah, metaphorically, it's
And they've got 2 talents and 3 thrust. Yeah, and this is the future that unlimiting upstart and also printing Sky Striker has been for people. They're playing 3 linkage. Their extra deck is.
Yeah, I mean, how many spell cards do you generally need for Sky Striker effect? The Sky Striker spells to get.
You need to be 3
to 5.
3 deep.
Is it 3
Some of them
different
cap out at 5. I don't think they're 3 different spell cards. Some of them might say that, but most of them are just have 3 spell cards in grave.
3+. Yeah. Triple upstart is just your 3 spells in grave, baby.
Yep. And in their extra, they're playing like 3 Kagari, 3 Shizuku. This deck was playing Little Knight and Azalea. The great whatchamacallit, Link 2 starters.
We really have just the other altar to Kagari just because we can.
Yeah, we're just fucking around. They have Access Kotaker, obviously. They are actually playing Celine, which is funny.
They're playing Dark?
Yeah, Dark.
Yeah, that makes sense. That tracks.
Yeah, you got some Dark monsters in here, with Rey as being Dark herself. I appreciate that they have enough space in this package to fucking main deck Ash and Valor.
So,
not even in the side deck.
Hang on. Quick question.
Yeah?
No Sky Striker is actually Spellcaster, right?
Nope.
So, we are playing Celine because we can normal summon Valor.
Probably, yes.
Somewhere in the distance, Robin is laughing.
We are this. I don't know who played this. They are a genius.
I still
this is a phenomenal
Robin
top 8.
Billy has done that just as a spiteful joke for fucking years.
It's not a spiteful joke. It legitimately did things. Yes, it was a joke, but at a point the joke becomes real because Numbers on Valor did plenty of things in our progressions.
I mean, yeah, it's a joke. Robin made it a joke because there were time periods where the bans in our prog series were terrible.
At the time, it's like the other cards to ban would be cards everyone would be annoyed if they were banned.
So this doesn't mean they shouldn't be banned.
Yeah.
See, Axe, this is why you were banned at banning cards, because you did not handle the pressure of upsetting people well. Other people were bad at banning cards because the Law was just funny.
Law continually said he was bad at making decisions because he was always angry.
And so, sometimes that's how it is.
Yeah.
I don't think we have any ill will towards our good old buddies from progression from having bad bans. but you still had bad bans.
It's something that, especially in hindsight, like if because I've not like the whole thing, but I've gone through periods of like binging old episodes. Like
it's a thing of I wish people just made a list of what would good bans be, because people refuse to also say what would be good options. It's not to say that thing was bad.
No, they were definitely said.
I mean, there were in discussions, like if you straight up ask, well, what's a good ban? I would be like, I don't know, and like list off 4 cards. I'm not gonna like, especially because this is a thing that I do actually agree with from like a listener perspective. Us discussing for like 5 minutes per duel what cards should be banned at the end, not necessarily constructive. Like, I think it did help people talk through some stuff, but it seems kind of distracting and very like negatively feeling to just be like, well, all right, we're here now. What cards will be banned? You know, like way ahead of time. But the data set was out there. The primary thing that I think I definitely said at a couple points is like, I mean, I could tell you what cards I would want banned. That's not the point of this exercise, though, which is you lost, you get to ban a card that you think will do something. And, you know, unfortunately, the problem was that I think either people misunderstood doing something would be. David infamously banning 4-star Ladybug a couple of times. That didn't do shit.
Well, the guy he didn't understand. I'm not
I'm
not gonna throw shit at him right now.
It didn't actually help.
while
Those were cards
we're
that
being
did fuck him
fair,
directly, but didn't actually help.
I can't remember all of my bans. I'm sure I had some bad ones.
I think we all had some bad ones at
we
some
can.
point.
If I actually have to leave in a moment, but I will get this out of the way
Yeah, go for
while
it.
we're on the topic.
We're probably wrapping up.
Solidarity. I understand. While I do understand your hangups on how strong it could be, I do not think it was worth being banned.
It was more just results.
Yeah, I mean, I picked on Solidarity, I think, because I only had like 1 or 2 copies. There were some people with 3 copies, and they were just running Solidarity Turbo decks.
And that happens sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like, I'm getting tired of seeing people play the decks that Solidarity makes good, basically.
You got shenanigans by it one too many times in test games and went, all right,
If I get got by Solidarity, I'm taking this out behind the shed. And that happened a couple of times. There were a lot of test games you guys didn't see that like pre-tilted us.
I legitimately remember we discussed, like we put Solidarity on the probation list, and an hour after our recording, you said, all right, it's going back to banning because it's going back off the list. Because I instantly got shenanigans by it.
Yeah, I immediately put Solidarity. I don't remember what deck that was, but I do remember that, yes. We put Solidarity back to 1, and I'm like, I don't like the decks that play Solidarity and what it does to me. And then, like, I don't remember the timing, but it's definitely like we immediately started playing it in test decks, and I'm like, yeah, that's right, I fucking hate Solidarity.
Yeah, it was either like an hour after, like I think an hour after our recording, or like the day after. Like, it was no time at all.
We're testing decks for the new format. And just like
it's going back in jail.
This sucks. I'm not having a good time. Yeah, I don't even know what deck it was. I know that there was Marth ran some Wetlands Beats frog stuff to very good success. There were several other cards that were possibly problematic in that.
I don't
Solidarity's
get
part of the
why
combo.
our tournament ended up being like, it's like fighting games. Sometimes if you're just good at being unga and bungaing, you just win.
I mean,
that was
it's
me
because
sometimes.
it's simple though. Like that's
Yeah.
honestly, like, I want to say, you know, talking positive vibes, I think I did actually talk about developing game sense. I did actually grow as a player throughout that series. All of my decks that I started with were like 45 cards, and like looking back, I'm like, oh, honey, you could cut 5 of these cards. You could kill your darlings, buddy. You could do it. But I understand that, like, when we're trying to play, you know, decks against this fucking limited soup, it's like, we could tech in a couple more cards, right? Like these cards are good.
I probably could have done better, but I at least learned how to, like, when I play, like, how it feels.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember at some early point, towards like the early GX goopage, you were either playing Chaos or some weird ass tribal conglomerate, and like that was me doing like Wind Dragons and Wind Beats for a good while.
Yeah. No, there was a lot of tribal, and it's so
no foil
funny.
cards ever for like literally 20 weeks or something.
It was so funny, like to kill elemental beats. I think at one point we had like 4 of those field spells banned.
Yeah, we definitely had the fire one because of me.
Yeah, and I think you also got
definitely
Rising Air Currents banned as well.
Yeah, like I think
Not that you were the only wind player, but I think that was.
I got the light one banned.
Yeah, the Light and Dark ones definitely got banned too. Yeah. I don't know if Gaia Power got banned.
I think Gaia Power did get banned. I don't know if it stayed banned by the time the other guys got, but Earth Beats was also a deck that went away. I don't think Umiruka ever actually got hit.
Umiruka never got hit, and Rising Air Current may have gotten hit for like a week because
it was hit for like a single ban format, and then we were like, okay, we're fine. I don't think Umiruka got hit because the water decks that were good was like me playing Legendary Ocean Beats, which is a very different vibes.
I think we did ban Chaos Orc just to stop Chaos from happening after a point.
Eventually, and I say this with full shade at myself because you can dig up the clips of me being like,
I should have immediately just banned.
Oh, Sork's not a problem. I was wrong.
Sork's always the problem because
Chaos as a concept is fun, very classic Yu-Gi-Oh. We should not have let it overstay its welcome.
Yeah,
all of those guys need to go to jail and stay there for like probably all of GX.
At least definitely allowed a critical mass of chaos cards to ruin, like, not ruin the format, but sour the format.
Yeah.
I will also say, I feel like we probably needed to. I feel like we did the right and wrong thing when trying to kill the ghosts of Simo.
I mean, that happens. Like
it's like I feel like we were too hard on Blackwings.
Yeah, Blackwings got put out to shed way too early.
Refused to let Simo happen.
And I should point out, I believe that was technically you guys because I'm pretty sure I was the player who played Blackwings into getting banned. But yeah, no, we definitely were like, as a group, we were too fucking prog-pilled, and we're like, we cannot have Blackwings be the only deck for like 40 weeks straight.
I mean, the one thing is that like Gage just needs to run battle traps in his side deck.
Well, talking about people improving their game sense, Gage is a much better player in Season 2. Like, he actually like pays attention to brews and like tries. Not that Simo doesn't try, but Simo also makes some very dumb decisions. I saw the Rock Stun week.
And in Gage's sense, that's the nature of a hyper competitive player who just, and this is again no knocks towards our good old buddy Nimnet. He's salt of the earth. He's great. He just had the worst fucking limited game concept. Like, he had the worst limited mind or the worst mind for playing in limited.
Yeah. Also, yes, Filthy Casual, you are very late. The stream will be ending soon. We're at 2 hours, and Vesper, I think you said you have to go in a little bit.
I actually have to.
If you have to go right now, I'll like fully wrap up. But we're not doing Endymion today. I'll save that for a different time.
I'll get going too, unless.
Okay, yeah. Like, so our final thoughts are like, we learned a lot of lessons from Prog stuff. I wouldn't want to do a Prog Season 2 on our end. We've talked before about doing some like
stream cubes.
Yeah, some cube stuff might be interesting, and some other limited shit. There's a lot of like limited.
I still have that itch for limited and draft play.
Yeah.
But drafting the whole fucking like sets again would be a horrible.
And off camera, we've had so much fun with cubes. Like there have been some complaints, but generally like, I think after a few tries, I'm starting to get a good sense of how to do cubes, and like.
Honestly, the only complaints are usually when the cube breaks. Really,
yeah, like the main complaints have come about from Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro decks, actual cube draft. Sometimes it gets a little scuffed.
Getting a little scuffed, yeah. The main thing is the poll is over. Again, shocking nobody. While we did get a couple of extra votes in there, Amazon S did win the Fail Portrayal poll for this month, so that'll be 2 weeks from now. I know what I did.
We're doing Earth Luna Light. Cool, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes, I said it. There we go.
I mean, that is kind of what they did with the late era support by giving them a couple pen cards. Amazon S was a Blind Go Second Fusion Unga Bunga deck way before Luna Light existed. But yeah, that'll be fun to talk about because I've both played Luna Light and actually played Amazon. I tried to set them up for some stuff. So there's very interesting things to talk about with Amazon S. We can even talk about the name change stuff.
You also can see the slow transition into them going into muscle women instead of just doing warrior women.
I think so. I mean, some of them I think are pretty fit. It's definitely a question of like the detail of the art.
More and more into it.
We'll get into that in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The next week should be, and I think it's fair since Vesper has already suffered on that front. We're moving to our next deck build pack. That will be, what was that actually called again? Ancient Guardians. That's right. Angu. That is Earth's Arctic, which you don't got to talk about. Ogdoadic and Sulfacord. We'll do Sulfacord first, because like I said, Vesper has already suffered trying to fucking understand that deck.
I'm gonna make sure to add Zed because I think he has that deck, and I want to actually play Sulfacord around to like, I guess, explain how they make it work.
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff we can see there. And so probably in a few weeks we'll do Ogdoadic, which will be very fun because, like I said, I won't say played the shit out of it, but I've built several Ogdoadic brews and tried to make it work, and it's just, it doesn't have the gas, but we can discuss why it just doesn't have the wherewithal. But yeah, this was your week's fail portrayal. This ends, talking about Genesis Impactors, once again, kind of being odd out there, where, like, yes, obviously Live Twin wasn't good out the gate, but they became a very robust package to play in multiple decks very soon after, and Drytron is Drytron. Magistus has not ever been a thing, and we'll see if it will be a thing in future. So we'll keep you up with the apprisement. Also, at some point, I'll probably talk to you guys about, like, what the new Flame Swordsman shit is like, because it's, like, not terrible, but it's very linear. It's you have one trick.
I've seen people talk about it where it's like, I think it's, I don't know, I've seen, it's weird to say this, but it's like, I actually think it's okay. I think it's actually like above average. I think it's like, I think it's a bit better than Rogue. I think it's actually like a playable thing you could play at a tournament.
It's a deck that is, it seems, made for you to cram all your blind second shit in and just go for blind second. And if you do that, it has a very reliable OTK.
Well, it's also like only so many cards, and like it's still only like it's only like 30 of the cards. So you
yeah. I've built this deck and I've played the lines. Yeah. I've played it against Lost.
It's only like 25 cards, isn't it? Like on good ratios.
Yeah, basically, if you play 3 of everything, you're missing
almost
half your deck.
You want to play 3 of though, because like some of you don't want to play 3 of.
There's no reason not to play 3 of all of them. Like
it's only 8 cards, right?
Yeah, it's like yes, there are some normal traps in there, but like you can play 2 or 3x of all of those. You want to be playing maximum copies of like the spells because they're good.
And I also think you play Blue Flame Swordsman because I think it also works with that too.
It doesn't really, but it is a guy who kind of works.
I guess you could also play Flint Lady or something.
There's a few tricks you could play, but like I'd love to like talk through the cards with you guys and maybe even like pull up EDO and like show you guys the lines.
I mean, hey, it works because it's like it's honestly probably when we get to modern stuff, it works.
It's a very one-dimensional card, but
if we ever get to S-Force, I'll feel sad that it's like I don't really have much to tell you because I don't actually know what high level play of it's like. It's.
I hate to break this to you, we did S-Force already. We did that like a year ago.
You're right.
I told you. I forgot
the gamut. I mean, I think I've told you, man. I have to active damage. I like memories just go in and out, like they spiral around in my head.
Yeah.
Like, I lose them and they come back.
But yeah, no. Now that I've connected that neuron for you, yeah, no, we did that with like Time Thief, and you I think were the only one who could actually discuss like what these cards hypothetically do, and the problem is not enough, unfortunately.
Yeah, because it's like, and then there's like Little Knight, which is probably she's generic, and it's weird how like the sideline of literally just the side story about Chimaru moonlighting as a vigilante and IP being a thing more than anything else.
I think there's gonna be some follow up to that with like some new, maybe like a new Night Chaser related card. I don't remember. We'll get into that later.
I would like.
Right now, Yu-Gi-Oh news is kind of in the middle, but there's some stuff on the pocket. But
honestly, I just feel like S-Force needs like a Link 2 and maybe like a Link 4.
Yeah, they probably need a slightly more usable boss than Justify. He's cute, but like
Justify is a counterplay card.
That's what I mean. Like
you play the stretch to dangle. You don't. It's not a game. It doesn't progress your game state.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's clearly the problem. The problem is that their main end board is Justify, but Justify doesn't do enough to actually end the game. He's a great removal tool.
It's a great board breaker. It's a great board breaker.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like he's a great removal tool. He's a great way to get rid of the board. The problem is that after you've made that, you don't have anywhere to go in Archetype. Like there's no further play you can do, and it doesn't let you do a lot of the generic stuff either, because you can't do like because the way the arrows work, you can't set up for like the access code shit and stuff. It's very odd. Anyway, we're over talking. We're gonna get out of here. Thanks so much everybody for tuning in.
Goodbye.
We'll see you guys next week, like I said, for Soulful Chord, and stay tuned tomorrow for more Final Fantasy XIV. Goodbye. Oh shit, I probably